21 questions.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready?
We're ready.
I think we're probably gonna, I mean, this is gonna go on forever because there's two of us. So maybe we should
go back and forth?
Yeah, for the most part, I think, probably, unless there's something really important.
Unless I really disagree with him.
Yeah, exactly.
That's going to be every frickin' question.
Just say whatever you feel, and we will see. Okay, first question. Who are you guys, and where are you from?
You take that one.
Oh, for both of us?
Yeah.
My name is Jinger. That is the real story. My real name is Jinger.
This is going to be forever.
It's really spelled the way it's spelled, Jinger, because my mom gave it to me that way.
Yes. But do you know what her mother was going to name her, and to this day still loves this name?
No.
You ready? Pufford.
Pufford?
Puffard. Pufford.
Like Buffy or something, I don't know.
Like a big fish.
Or a rabbit or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And to this day, if you bring it up to her, she says, such a lovely name.
I think my mom...
Thank God. Mark, Kalin, and Pufford.
Yeah, no. Yeah, anyway, so I'm from Connecticut, which is very near New York.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up about an hour outside of New York City, dancing and pursuing my passions. And he's from Southern California.
Covina, California, and I grew up dancing. No dancing. Some moves, but no dancing.
Yeah, we've seen your moves.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I was gonna say I saw too much. I know that that's not true.
Yeah. He's got some moves though, some very creative.
I used to have some moves. I've toned them a lot. I started magic when I was 9, and just it was the only thing I could really do, magic.
And we met when we were 21 and 31, respectively.
On an island.
In Guam.
Yeah, Guam. That was it.
Yeah.
Because you were already working there as a magician, and then you saw Jinger dancing in the show? And
I was dancing and then singing as well. Yes, you got it. You got the whole story.
I also saw her naked backstage once. That had some effect.
Yeah.
Oh, that was before.
I didn't know about
she
that.
She was doing a quick change. I'm like.
Yeah, I did know about that. No.
I'm more like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me take another good look.
Yes. In this case, that could have been true.
But you know how it is when you grow up and dance and stuff. You're not very self-conscious. You're just kind of like, you got to make a quick change and just do it wherever.
I mean, there is no time. There is no time to physically cover up because, quick change.
Yeah. If you haven't seen it before, here's your education.
So that's who we are.
Yeah. So that's it. That's pretty much the whole story. That's all the questions
stayed on focus.
Okay. What were you like as a child?
Oh. Gosh.
Mark Kalin, were you the typical magician?
Yeah, probably somewhat. You know what? I grew up, I had lots of brothers and sisters, but they were quite a bit older than me. So they were moved out of the house. So it was, even though I had brothers and sisters, I grew up sort of as an only child because they were out of the house.
Right.
And I was into magic and staying up late and watching Johnny Carson and watching, entertainers and doing my magic. And then very, very early on when I started magic, I got involved with the Long Beach Mystics, which was a magic club. And Stan Allen and Mike Caveney and Bill Smith and Les Arnold and Kevin James and just a whole bunch of great people. So that was, huge part of my life from like 12 on.
And they were all in the same magic club.
All in the same magic club. Unbelievable. And we all still are friends and we all still do magic.
That is crazy.
And you?
Me?
She was quiet.
I was quiet, but I was always a performer. I think like I did my first solo when I was like 4, a tap dance, you know, like on stage, singing, Mahi's making eyes at me, that kind of thing.
Mahi? Who's Mahi?
He's making eyes at me. That was the song that I sang when I was 4. And then from then on, they always like would put me like in the end of school year pageants and stuff, but yet like they would have me interpret the choreography. Like I grew up going to a really small school. We all went to a house. I mean, it was
like a commune.
It wasn't a commune.
You said it was like a commune, your house.
No, the school. The school was a house.
Didn't you? But were your parents living with other people?
That was when I was very, very young. They were hippies, exactly. So, but yeah, I went to school, a private school from like kindergarten through 8th grade. And there was 10 kids in my class, like the same 10 kids in my class, like all throughout. And we all like our classroom was a room in the house. Anyway, every year, at end of year, we would have this big pageant, like award ceremony and dance show. Like people would do square dances and things like that. What my principal would order the show, and because I was the only one that danced, like they would like put like the dance terms like on paper typed out,
right?
Like do a pirouette here and a chaîné here and a do-si-do here. Yeah. And so she would have me like interpret it and then teach it to everybody. It was really funny. It's really, really hilarious. So I was always like the showbiz kid.
Right.
But yeah, I was so quiet in everything else.
But why was that?
Don't know. But probably because the stage was my outlet. Don't know.
You had never done magic before you met Mark?
Just once. I was familiar with magic a little bit. I had a close-up magician perform at my 16th birthday party.
That must have been so painful. Oh.
It wasn't. It was actually fun.
Really?
It was fine. Oh. And then when I was...
Can you imagine our daughter, if we had done that? She would have disowned us at 16.
When I was 19, I was part of a group called the Young Americans, which is a song and dance group out of California. And we were going on tour to Japan, and we had this big show planned. And one of the segments of the show had the conclusion of a magic trick, a transposition, where the singer got a male singer vanished from one spot and appeared in the audience. And what's his name?
Pierce.
Ray Pierce came and taught the group the trick, and I was one of the 2 people who performed the trick. Okay. So that was my first magic illusion.
Funny.
And then I saw him perform in Guam, and I was like, well,
blown away.
We had gone like 6 months pretty much in the same show. And I really didn't pay much attention to it. You know, he was a variety act in the show, and I really wasn't, you know, I just didn't have any reason to pay attention to it. And then on the last night of my contract, I watched from the front, and I was like shocked. I was like, why have I not seen this before? Why was I not watching? This was amazing. This person had so much connection with the audience. I mean, yeah, I was blown away by the magic, but more importantly, I was captivated by the impact that it had on the audience. And that was just, you know, intriguing to me.
Yeah.
Intriguing to me. So I went up to him afterwards and said, hey, you know, if you ever need anybody I'll give it a try. You know.
And Mark was like, I'll give it a try.
For sure.
That is so cute. But I can understand, like, coming from a dance background, which is quite, it stays very much here. Like it stays very much on stage. It doesn't break through that fourth wall, as they say. And then the second I did magic for the first time, for me it was the fire cage. That was the first ever thing I've ever done. I opened that little door and I was out and I saw the people and I immediately thought, this is something so different. It's
exactly.
Yeah.
I had a little taste of it. It's the interaction with the audience that always inspires me the most with magic. I mean, it's all of the inspiration for me. And that's why this is going to be really strange going forward from now, as how are we going to keep that connection with the audience, with the distance and all that. But I'd done some dinner theater, some dinner theater work, and that's kind of very interactive with the audience because you get them to play games and respond and, call and response and, it's intimate. And so it was different than being like a chorus performer or even, a solo performer. But like you said, with that dance world where it's the audience and then it's us, and them watching us. But when you break that barrier and you're interacting with people, it's a whole nother thing. But that is exactly what intrigued me about it, is like, oh my God, that's what I love about performing.
Yeah.
I love it when people don't turn away, when they like look you right back in the eyes when you can see them.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I completely get that. Mark, this one is for you. What would your job have been if you weren't a magician?
For a short time after I left high school, I went to college for a very short time and went into a television production.
Right.
And, I look back at that and think at sometimes I wish I had stayed connected with that because I just like that whole idea. I like the process. I like, it's very similar to being in a show when you all work together. But what happened was I just kept getting more and more shows. And sometimes these shows were in New York or Hawaii or Japan. And so I had to make a choice of whether to stay in school or, do these shows. And of course I took the shows. But I think I would have done something still in the arts, but something maybe a little more regimented, like TV production or something like that.
Cool, that's nice. And you, Jinger?
I have no idea, because even though I was interested in academics, I had never had the discipline like I did for dance.
Right.
I never had the discipline in any passionate way for anything else besides performing arts. Later I got good at like production and organizing and producing things and doing business that way. And I guess business, some sort of business, but I don't know what.
Back to Mark. What is your favorite act in the whole wide world?
Oh, that's so hard to choose. I mean, the easiest answer to that is the one I've been doing the longest, which is the billiard balls. That still fascinates me. It's connected to my beginning and why I got into magic. It's still a challenge. But I mean, that's one piece of the puzzle. For us together, it was really the Wakeling sawing that built that connection and sort of launched a direction for our career. So it's a very difficult thing to answer, but if I had to choose one, I'd probably say the billiard balls.
Billiard balls. And for you?
So many. I think the one I enjoyed performing a lot was the Transfiguration, though, when we had the cats and we did that. Only because it was a good connection between the two of us. It allowed me to do my skill, which and it also was a damn good trick. So the payoff was there, I mean, I think the things that are the best magically the tricks that are like the strongest magically are my favorites, because there's nothing that beats that response from the audience. There's nothing that beats doing that for people, so that's why, at the end of the day, it's the best, it's whatever's going to get the best magical reaction.
The biggest gasp. We go for the gasp.
Go for the gasp.
It's interesting though, because I'd been in magic and actually been a performer in Las Vegas for many years before Jinger and I met. Mm-hmm. And so tricks like the transfiguration and things with tigers. I mean, I had built a career on this, flashy, but also just strong, hit 'em hard magic. And then when we came upon the Wakeling sawing, it was the opposite. It was hard to get a reaction, and producers took it out of the show because it was weak and because it didn't have anything but it was that challenge. And in some ways, I remember Alan Wakeling saying once, I mean, there's what a brilliant man, and the billiard ball routine I do is 90% Alan Wakeling's. And he said that the Wakeling sawing, or his sawing, is the largest, it's a stage version of a sleight of hand trick, of a manipulation trick. And in some ways, it's the same as the billiard balls. And that's what we found to be true. It was about honing every moment, and it was about physical skill. It was about timing. It was about misdirection. And as much as I love tricks like the transfiguration, they were easier in one sense. You just conceived of that magic moment and some sort of lead up to it. Whereas something like the Wakeling sawing was a challenge at every stage of the routine.
Yeah, the difference between something being really impactful and memorable, is the Wakeling. And that's what appeals to us about that, or me.
Because, Wakeling it's all about the build up, I think, because it keeps adding, with the people, and then with you, and with the straps, and it keeps getting sort of worse along the way.
Yes, exactly.
The other thing, a good friend of mine, Armando Lucero, has great theories in magic and structures of magic. And one of his theories is that magic is about closing doors for the audience. You present these, they come up with these potential solutions, and you close that door. Then they move over here, and then you close that door. And if you systematically take them on this sort of like little journey, closing doors, at some point, it's just a miracle. It's impossible. Yeah. And I think the Wakeling sawing is an example of that. At each stage of that routine, and that was the challenge, was to make all of that process also entertaining and funny and interesting. But it was about closing those doors. And, I love to think about that stuff, think about the theory of magic and why something works.
Yeah. It is actually, I find that a really good one. Magic is about closing doors in a way. Sometimes opening, but
Yeah, a lot of opening and closing doors in magic. You're right.
Jinger, what are your hidden talents? Something that we don't know about you.
I could answer that, but it would not be appropriate for a family.
I don't know. I mean, I do like to cook. So I'm I'm an experimental cook. What else? What else do people not know about me? I handle, a lot of like business and paperwork. I should have maybe been an attorney, because I will always find a good argument for something.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I am horribly, to a fault, a believer in justice. So I'm like, just, I'm incensed by unjust things, so in that respect, I would have been like an advocate or something like that.
Mark, What was your most important moment in your career?
Well, wow. I can actually, you know what? I can answer that. It's a difficult question because I've been doing this a long time. In fact, maybe a lot of magicians don't realize how long. I mean, I started in the early 70s and was traveling and doing magic in mid 70s. And then I had a career in the 80s. Probably joining the Long Beach Mystics, discovering them. Because magic was prior to that, a very solo thing. I read a lot of books. I went to the library. I practiced my tricks on my mom, pick a card. But somebody said, hey, at the end of the month, we jump in a station wagon and we drive down to Long Beach, California, and to Emerson Elementary School, and in their theater, we just had this magic meeting. And that opened up a whole world to me. There was others like me, and probably more important is the key ones were just a little bit older than me. And I wanted so bad to be accepted by them and to get their approval. Those same people I mentioned earlier, Stan Allen and Mike Caveney and all those guys. So I think fundamentally that set the direction.
Right. That's cool.
Irrevocable at that point. The direction for my life was set at that point in time.
I think so many people right now are like jealous that they weren't around in that time to be in that specific magic club.
I feel very fortunate. Very fortunate.
That is an epic magic club. They should make a
and there was no structure to it. It wasn't like dues or join. It was just like, come, anybody can come, anybody can be a member. And the only key, and this was pretty key, was the ones that really stuck to it, you performed every month. You do your whatever, and then you spend the rest of the next month trying to figure out what you're going to do.
The next, yeah.
And that was really important.
It was a true test, I think, for the people who really wanted to be there and really do it. I think there's a faction of our magic community of people who are doing it for the business, doing it for the industry. They're not necessarily doing it just because they love doing magic.
Right.
And I think back then it was like the basics. They were all just there because they just loved creating magic, not because they wanted to get somewhere,
Yeah, I mean, you didn't even know
they got somewhere because they weren't concerned about getting there.
Right. Jinger, do you have any rituals or superstition before a show?
Ooh, yes. I think I do. I don't think I like to even admit it to myself, but yeah, like there's things that like I'll try to eat, certain things, like I'll always have like a banana. I know this sounds funny, but just it feels like it like gives me balance and grounds and gives me enough energy and stuff. I won't have coffee right before. I will have it an hour and a half.
She is a person of rituals, by the way.
I will
very structured.
Warm up a little, at least a little bit, even if I'm not dancing, like even if I'm not doing anything, I don't have to lift my leg or do shit, I will still warm up. Yeah, I think so. That's and just making sure that I'm prepared. I'm kind of like religious about my presets, there is no excuse for somebody that doesn't know what they're doing when they walk out onto stage. Yeah.
So you're a checker, you check and then you check again?
Always. Yeah. Or I just have to know, if I have to know that I've done it, I have to feel confident, because then when you're free, when everything's like checked off the back of your mind, you're much better performer on stage when you're not thinking about other thoughts in the background, I think.
Yeah, sure. I think that too. I always find it strange when I look at like the mostly male magicians, when they literally just walk out without even doing a little shoulder thing, or they just, and it's just like, how can you be like, how can your body be on right now? I don't understand.
Yeah, I have a pet peeve though, also when I see people out on stage, and that's when things dawn on them. So I know that they're not there in the moment with me. I mean, if I, I don't like when performers are obviously not in the moment when they're preoccupied about, oh, I forgot to do that, or I'm thinking about that. You can so tell, and I think it's so disrespectful to fellow performers and audience members and stuff. It's like, you should have thought of that before.
Yeah.
Give me everything now.
You definitely need to be present with like 100% and all your
magic. I mean, magic is, can be a little dangerous. A little bit.
I mean, you are in the same sort of room as like Big Cats and Black Panther.
And the pee.
Yeah. I can't do anything about that.
They peed on your head once, right?
Yeah.
Several times.
Just everywhere, not just my head, just I'm just laying in it. Yeah.
Amazing. The things you do for magic.
I know.
It is crazy. Mark, what is your favorite theater in the whole wide world?
How do you answer that? I mean, how do you answer that? You would connect a theater with the show. I mean, it's one way I can answer that was that for close to 5 years, we had our own theater here in Reno called Magic Underground that we built out of nothing, and it was beautiful and it was intimate, and that was fantastic. That was head and hands above. I mean, you travel around the world. We've done the Palladium, obviously Broadway at the Palace Theater, Sydney Opera House. They're all amazing in their own way. But there was something about creating our own space. And, I'm a polisher. You just constantly polish something a little bit more, and it never stays the same. And it just constantly, hopefully, gets better and better and better over time. And that's what happened, was applied to Magic Underground. We opened it, but it was constantly being honed and polished and touches made, and it was fantastic.
And when was that?
2004 to 2008.
Yeah, that must have been.
It was a great experience. It was a life-changing experience. It was another chapter in our careers, and we've had so many different levels of career niches and reinventions and things, from starting out as, this flashy act with cats in casinos, and then going, to our own show with Carnival of Wonders, and then going to Magic Underground and reinventing yet again, and then going back to, ensemble shows, with the Illusionists and stuff.
With prior to Magic Underground, we had Carnival of Wonders for a number of years, and we had moved it over to the Reno Hilton, which is one of the largest stages in the world. It's a 1-acre stage. That's where and the show had just expanded to this spectacle size, right? And I don't think things happen by accident, because when we finally put that away, closed that down and said, okay, been there, done that, what's next? We went from one of the largest stages in the world to our own little theater with this tiny little, for the next 5 years, 4.5 years. So much so that one of the tricks we used to do in the show at the Reno Hilton was the vanish of an American Airlines jumbo jet. And it had an 80-foot wingspan, and it was a huge undertaking. Part of that was a video screen that would come in that would shoot the plane from above. And, you know, we were doing a show called Carnival of Wonders, so you can't have this little frame. Yeah, when I say nice little, it was
20 feet.
Yeah, 20 feet by like 10 feet, but like an old-fashioned gold picture frame to tie this screen in. When we opened Magic Underground, that frame became our proscenium.
Oh my God.
So
Isn't that funny?
we just repurposed it, cut the bottom off, and put it there, and it made, now
our set piece.
We were performing inside a small piece of what was just a part of one of this huge illusion.
It's like one of those cartoons you see when you like shrink people down from big to like little, you know, and then they go into the flying school bus and they go inside. It's kind of like what we felt like.
But the symbolic of it is gorgeous, of course.
What's that?
The symbolic meaning of that.
Well, you started this whole thing by asking who we were, and that's who we are. It really is about the next challenge, and it is about reinvention, and it's about, you know, for
adapting.
So many years we had our best friend and you know, Joni Spina, director, and helped us with all of our shows. And she was always talking about your comfort zone, stepping out of your comfort zone. That's how you have to grow. And I think that's who we are. You gotta you know, just not happy. I can't imagine doing the same act for an entire career, much less for 10 years or 5 years. You gotta keep moving forward.
But I also think that you guys, because I mean, you just said it, you've been doing magic since the mid 70s. I think it's smart that, like, a lot of magicians, they do have this one act and this one look, and they'll just ride it out till no one ever books them anymore, basically.
Yes.
It's too late, yeah, but you see it happen. And I think you guys very noticed also that, you know, it evolved in a way. And sometimes that's not necessarily what you want. Because, for example, maybe you want to still be in the spandex and with the cats and all, but if the world is not like that anymore, then yeah.
And if we are not like that anymore, it would look ridiculous, which a lot of magicians do look ridiculous.
Yeah. But it is a double-edged sword, because people know you for certain things and they want that thing. But yet, to us, what's always great are the newest things. You know, it's like, well, what would have happened if, you know, 20 years ago, we were building our careers on the Circle of Fires and the Fire Spikers and those kinds of things. And, you know, within the last 5 years, you know, we've done the Impossible illusion with the thing and the floating ball and some really innovative things. And, you know, to us, those
other things were innovative in their time.
They were innovative in their time. But the newer things are what's exciting to us, because, you know, they're the new, you know, they're the new, you know, they got the new shine on them, and people, you know, pay attention. But yet still people, you know, they like want that other stuff. It's like, well, we've all grown past it, you know. It's commonplace now, where those were innovations then.
Yeah, sure.
Know, these are the new innovations. So that's kind of like the fun part about reinventing.
Do you think magic now is a little bit more about storytelling than it was like in the 80s? I feel in the 80s you could wheel out this weird looking box with a hole, and then here are some spikes, yeah, and no one would really question it. I feel now you can't wheel out a weird looking box because people immediately go, what is it? And I feel now you really have to tell the story of this is this, and this is why we're going to do it, and that's why it's cool.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah.
I would say that this is my impression. Right now, magic is going through a rebirth in close-up magic. Kind of where illusions were maybe back in the 80s, where it really was about innovating, coming up with your own stuff. Even the TV shows, even though they look somewhat dated now, the world's greatest magic, the way you got on those shows was to do something different. And, you know, I was just seeing the ads for a current TV show that's been running quite a few years now. And the ad for the coming season, and I mean, it's a fine TV show, but it looks like all the same tricks from the years past. There's a helicopter appearance, and here's a sub-trunk. And I think, gosh, where's the innovation? Where's the internet has brought us that duplication and that lack of originality and creation. I see it in close-up magic, but I don't necessarily see it. So yeah, we had box jumping and all that flash in the 80s, but also we had Siegfried and Roy.
90s, I wasn't doing magic in the 80s.
Yes. You know, and to some extent, you can still trace today's magic back to, and maybe this is what you're referring to, the storytelling, to Copperfield specials, which are now 20, 30 years old.
Right.
Now, piece of rock music, a little choreography, a little sex, a little, you know.
Where I will agree with you, though, now is in the genre of mentalism. I do believe that with that, you know, there is a lot more routine building. So it requires a lot. It's not just do the trick and you're done. It's a lot more build. You know,
but where's it? What is it? Where's the nucleus that it all grows from? Mentalism right now.
What do you mean?
It's all a version of Darren Brown.
Yeah, but her question was about storytelling and things like that. And that's what I'm saying. It's more, you know, routine building. You know, you need that framework, that story, that framework to build a great, entertaining, mind-reading routine. You know, it does come from that build. Yes, Darren was the originator of a lot of that. But I think her question was, do we think it's come around? Is it in current day? The more storytelling and stuff.
Like, yeah. You still wheel out a box without explaining.
I think it depends on the performer and how it's presented too. You know, you look like it's somebody like Goodwin, you know, Jonathan, and he's always got a story, you know, but it's interesting. He makes it interesting.
Yeah.
But also he doesn't do anything that anybody else does.
Right. His stunts look like other things. They might be based off the same things, but...
Yeah, but he's a pretty original thinker.
Yeah.
And most illusionists are not. And that, to me, is a great disappointment.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's difficult. I mean, I'm just gonna... I am on that pile, but it's... And I think a lot of people would love to be original, love. But even if I sit myself down, even in my wildest dreams, I cannot, well, I can come up with things, but then they're or impossible, or I need like bags of money.
No, what you're saying is incorrect. You are original. You're very original. It comes from your personality. It comes from your interpretation of the tricks. It doesn't have to be an original trick.
Method.
You know, it helps, and there's great material out there. I think some magicians just don't look hard enough for something. If you don't have the desire or the ability, which most of us don't, to create a trick, there's so many roads to finding material. But you're quite original in your magic because you're very much yourself, and you are able to somehow move into performing magic and cut out a lot of the formative years. You were very comfortable just doing it your way. You didn't fight what felt right to you. And that's a triumph. That's 15 years of experience that somehow you were able to bypass. How were you able to do that? Seriously.
Well,
I mean, that's important for somebody listening.
But it's true. You stay true to yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you. Thanks. I'm a bit overwhelmed, but um, as a magic assistant, which I've obviously been for so many years, and also for so many people, it became a bit awkward at one moment. I feel that I was always very involved. I was with all of them. I was never just the assistant. I was always, like I said, from that first moment I came out of the fire cage, which was the first thing I've ever done. Then I was 18 and now I'm 34. So in the meantime, I always wanted to get involved. I always wanted to know how all the illusions worked, to the point where I could like change things myself, like a little wig or a mirror or cleaning something because I understood, hey, this can't be dirty. I was always, making the choreographies, choosing the music. I am a little bit of a person, as you know me very well. Like, I like to stick my nose in businesses that sometimes I should not, but I'm interested in I don't know, in things. And I would love to like even change other people's lines, or not change, but go, hey, have you thought of saying it like this? And it doesn't come from a point where I think I know, but it comes from a point where I like to
improve,
collaborate also, and talk. And I don't know, I was always watching YouTube videos of magicians, and all the other dancers were like, what, who? And I was like, Jonathan Pendragon. And they were like, we have no idea. And I'm like, I'm gonna show you a video. So I don't know.
It's the important thing, and I think it's just in your DNA, was to watch those videos, to learn from them, but it wasn't in your desire to copy them. It's just a different way of looking at things. It's like sucking up all you can take in, but you regenerate that into something fresh or different, which is just really you.
Yeah.
And I think that people, and you would probably agree with this, there's a lot of people in magic that don't give themselves, they're cutting out the most rewarding part, which is to create their magic.
Yeah.
And instead they default out of fear. You can say it's lazy. I just think it's in our culture now. But you can say, I'm just going to do it like that.
They strive to be just like something they see, as opposed to somebody that says, I would like to do it, but I've got to do it differently. I've got to be, I will do something because it's different than that, or I will not do something because somebody else is doing it.
Yeah. And maybe in my case, it helps the lack of experience, because you get to a point where you can only be yourself, so
that was my beginnings. That's exactly how I started. I had no model to go off of. There was I couldn't watch videos. There wasn't videos. There wasn't, I'm that old. There wasn't a lot of things to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. So yeah, those were different times. You couldn't just watch anything on YouTube that you wanted to.
No, you could go, oh, do you remember we saw that 2 years ago on stage?
I can remember watching, I said I used to watch Johnny Carson, and I saw Carson, who was a manipulation billiard ball comedy guy, worked the Crazy Horse for years, and I heard he was going to be on Johnny Carson. I read about him in my little Genie magazines. I was probably 12 years old. And, this was before VCRs and obviously before the internet. So I got one shot to see him. So I wanted to emulate him. I wanted to do exactly what he did. Problem is, I couldn't remember. I could remember something. He did balls from mouth, so I started doing that. But I didn't have the ability to copy him exactly. So and that's also why I always tell magicians that ask advice, the importance of a book over a video. Because there's a process there that forces you to interpret.
Right.
And that interpretation, some is excess work. Let's just cut to results. But it's that process of interpretation that creates you and your magic and your style, and you learn. So, I mean, I don't look at it as belaboring a process. That's the part you're supposed to enjoy.
Yeah, I know from you that you don't like to watch videos, because sometimes I came to you in your dressing room and was like, you should watch this video. This is what I want to do. And you would go like, get away with your YouTube. Just tell me what it is.
I realize now it's just the way things are now. And it's kind of what Jinger said. Now, copying something exactly is in our culture. It's accepted. You watch a singer and you sing that song like them, you emulate them, and you might be popular on YouTube. But I come from a different time, and particularly with the Mystics, if I'd come back that next month and done a copy of what somebody had done the month before,
they would laugh.
I would be demoted.
Yeah.
Intellectually, emotionally, magically.
Yeah.
I would lose my lifeline to my membership to this. And when I say not just a club, just this inner circle of guys, I wanted to be accepted. And fortunately, they set very high standards.
Yeah, well, good. Jinger, what was the first trick you've ever learned to do?
Kind of like you, the very first trick I ever was a part of inside, like, you know, for Mark's act, was the Blammo box.
Oh, the Blammo.
Yeah. And it was like the same thing. It was like when that lid came off and, you know, there I was, you know, leaning forward and the audience applause. I was like, yeah, this is amazing. You know, it was awesome.
Yeah.
I loved it.
And what was the first trick you really did by yourself?
Oh, well, let's see. What was the first trick I ever did myself, like with
Torn and Restored?
Besides the Torn and Restored, you know, like I did part of the shadow theater, the origami, the
shadow
origami.
Called shadow theater.
That's why I
Yeah.
so I did the first part of the trick, and then Mark did the second part of the trick. What else have I? What other tricks have I done by myself besides the Torn and Restored? And the floating ball. I did a shadow box in Masters of Illusion that Joni staged for me before she quit, before she had to retire. And then the cat trick, double songs was the first trick that I actually performed side by side with Mark. That was like way back in the very, very, very beginning. But that was an interesting study, doing the same trick at that time, side by side, parallel. It actually didn't work for us. I mean, you would think that it would have made us, you know, have that equal perception, but we were fighting each other. Meaning it wasn't working for our combination.
We weren't fighting each other. But we weren't presenting something that was interesting to the audience. It was just two people doing the same thing.
Their own bubble.
Yeah. We are telling you, the audience, that we are equal. Look.
I'm cutting somebody in half.
And I'm cutting, and therefore that's something new. And it actually was something kind of obvious. Still a great trick, still fun to do, nothing wrong with it. It was not what we talked about earlier of moving to that next thing, though, of pushing to actually do something that mattered. Nothing wrong with it. It's just was an easy journey and an obvious choice.
Yeah, and I don't think it was very interesting, to be honest with you. You know, because I think it looked like we were both vying for the attention from the audience as opposed to supporting each other in a mutual fashion.
It's a shame, because I thought it was rather brilliant. When I saw it, I never for a second, I thought it was great. And I was wondering if you were the first guys to ever present an illusion simultaneously.
Oh God, no.
No, Spellbound did that years and years ago.
Yeah, actually, what you're talking about, the double sawing itself?
The cross-gender version.
Well, the concept of doing the exact same illusion next to each other at the same time.
You know what? I can't think of, most likely not. Undoubtedly not.
Didn't they do that in Spellbound?
That's Siegfried and Roy, and there was a lot of. Yeah, I would love to take credit for that, but that's something that, like I said, seemed like an easy choice.
Yeah.
An obvious choice. Fun one, but
when we redid it for 1903, when we did the cross-gender version, I much preferred it than when we did it.
You better explain what cross-gendered means.
I saw a guy and he did a girl, but we did it with a historical context.
The guy ends up with women's legs and
with the skirt.
Yeah, and that was more interesting to me because it was just, and also it was done with some historical context because it was done with that framework. So the history of it made it more interesting for the audience, and there goes your storytelling idea, but Caveney wrote the script, and it was a very that the first person to be sawn in half was actually a man, and then you tell that story of how that evolves, through, and it becomes immediately more interesting. So that I didn't actually mind because we were bringing that trick to another level.
However, the male and female part of it is credited to Wayne Allen. He's the first person that I saw do that. Put a man and a woman and have them which is a fantastic idea.
Hilarious.
Yeah, it's great. So I was talking to Jonathan Goodwin last week to do the 21 questions, and we agreed that The Illusionist 1903 is the best version of The Illusionist. Do you agree?
Of course we do. Okay.
Yes, I would agree. Yes and no. It cannot in any way compete with the full-on illusionist concept. But as a show put together with care, with all those elements, and if you're a magic nut and nerd, then it ticks all the boxes.
Right.
So yes, I would agree that it was a really good show.
As a theatrical show goes.
Yeah, and in a gorgeous theater that all matched so brilliantly when it was in New York. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, something else. Mark Kalin, what's your favorite type of music?
Well, gosh, you're asking questions. My favorite kind of music is every kind of music. I love music. I love discovery music. A lot of the magic and even the tricks are created from hearing a song first. The Circle of Fire trick that you're very familiar with, originally was a shadow of Jinger. Was inspired by the U2 song She Moves in Mysterious Ways, which is the music we used to use for that trick. But I heard the song and thought of Jinger moving in that shadow and built it from there. So, my go-to, of course, is still the music you listen to when you're in high school, 70s, rock and roll, a lot of 80s and stuff. But I have Jinger and my daughter to keep me somewhat more current.
Yeah, because I was thinking you do always come with these crazy music and tracks that you find somewhere. And my top favorite song that you picked was Three-Card Monty.
I knew that's what you were going to say. The Three-Card Monty song.
Oh, yes.
Best song ever.
You know what? It is an ability, and I don't have this ability in other ways. I see it in other people, like when I worked with people like Jim Steinmeier or Joni Spina. You go to them for something you need, a trick or something. And they seem to have this ability. It's like opening this invisible drawer and looking around and going, this is what you need.
Right.
And you go, oh my God, you're right. And that, like I said, it can be a trick. It can be, for Joni, it was pushing us into here's something she said that made a fundamental difference. When she first came and watched us perform, she said, you guys are great and everything. And I go, what? She goes, no. She's very, careful about giving advice and stuff like that. And I said, no, tell me. She said, well, you and Jinger are performing out to the audience and all of your energy is going out. She says, I kind of think that if you did something where you turn that energy to each other and let us in on what that was, that would be something. Well, that's like, bong. So to some extent, I can do that with music. I can see something and I can just open that drawer of a billion songs that are not even organized. They're just in my head and go, oh. And I hope and pray that when Now You See Me is remounted, at some point, we will rejoin that trick.
I hope so.
It was the best thing.
Good segment.
Tell them, Sabine, what we're talking about.
Even in the spirit of Don Wayne, I should think we should do that trick anyway.
Yep.
I would love to do that trick, even in a regular illusionist show. It would be so easy. It would be so easy to do.
It was great. One of my favorite tricks I've been involved in. Jinger,